Hi, Shel Phillips here. Good to see you again. Still trying to shed light on the dark places in CMMC and compliance to that methodology. Today, I've invited one of my good buddies, part of the Covenant Global crowd, and he's the technical yin to my compliance yang. Mike Hughes, we call him Microsoft Hughes, and he's our CTO. So today we would like to talk very specifically about the stack. You might have heard the term, and today we're going to try to unpack that and figure out what that really means. So Mike, I want to start with this question, and then I'm going to kind of let you go loose, and I'll try to reel you in when it gets too far. But let's talk about what is a security stack and why Microsoft?
Oh, a security stack is all the pieces that protect the perimeter access to your data and your applications and your user accounts and your devices. But basically, it's protecting your data. That's kind of what we do when it comes to security stacks for protecting IT environments. We're all focused on data protection, really, at the end of the day. Protecting all that valuable information, financial, private information that you may have about the organization, just anything in general. So it's really about data security. Why Microsoft? Well, let me back up just a touch on that one. As a managed service provider for 20 plus years now, Covenant's evolved over time, and like a traditional managed service provider that has grown from a guy working from a company that formed an IT company. That's how a lot of these start. You start piecing together all the components that you need to protect that data. Protect identities, protect emails are number one threat. All these pieces, and normally you're piecing things together. You can be selecting what best of breed is at the time, whatever that might be. But what you end up running into is an administrative and a training nightmare. Trying to keep up with it and do all those things. And then you've got all these components to go look at when a security event does actually happen. How do you correlate it all together? How do you bring it all together? And it's really becomes a challenge. And about 5 years ago, Covenant decided to make the purposeful decision to start focusing on the Microsoft security stack as an integrated stack. That way, it was easier to train our team. It was easier to manage our customers. And all the pieces talk to each other, fit together when an actual event occurs. So that's why Microsoft. The pieces that go into that, protecting your data is obviously identity management, like a Windows Active Directory or in the cloud Entra ID. You've got all the access controls, security groups, users go into groups and groups get assigned to things to protect those things. Then you've got the device protection, because that's where threat actors come in through known vulnerabilities on devices and the applications that run on those devices. And then you've got the endpoint management, because you've got to patch those devices, patch those operating systems, patch those applications. So you need some kind of an endpoint management tool. And now in a mobile world where people are working from home or working from wherever, you're no longer in the confounds of an office and servers and an Active Directory where you can push policies out and software out. So you've got to have cloud-based tools, and that's where Intune comes in to help manage those devices and do those configuration policies. Those configuration policies are just like you have with Windows Active Directory too. Microsoft has made it that way. And a lot of organizations are moving off of systems like SCCM to Intune, because now they can manage device anywhere as long as it's connected to the internet.
Right.
And then the next piece of that really would be protecting the data, right? First, you've got to identify it. Where is it, in the cloud or on-premise? And Microsoft has the pieces for that. They have an on-premise scanner that can scan data. And anytime you put a file in the cloud, it will automatically index it and classify it into over 300 sensitive information types, like bank account numbers and social security numbers and credit card numbers and all those types of things that would be classified as sensitive information. Microsoft auto classifies that the moment you drop a file into the cloud, as long as it's an indexable file. And like I said, they can do it on premise with a little scanner. They can do the same thing, and then you can auto classify, and then you can manually classify data and encrypt it and protect it. So now you're really encrypting your data in such a way that if it were to leak out, you're controlling who can open it and get to it.
Yep.
So there's those pieces. Which, go ahead. You had a question?
And all of that is wrapped into a FedRAMP high environment.
Yeah. The other pieces of the stack that I would add in there was obviously logging. Everything has to be logged. You have to do that anyhow, no matter whether it's network equipment or event logs on a server. One of the things that's nice about Defender for Endpoint is you get 180 days of logging just out of the gate. And you want to talk about shadow IT and what your users are doing. Defender for Endpoint, even if you're using some other third-party solution, is a great telemetry tool because it'll correlate that information into where users are going, what cloud applications are using with over 33,000 Microsoft apps. But then on the other side of it, it will also tell you all the vulnerabilities on those endpoints and what you need to patch, which can lead into having device control on accessing data. If the device is high risk, you can control all those things. So there's things that you can do to bring all these pieces together, and Microsoft gives you a package that does all of this, right? All the pieces to do all of this are really all there. So that's a lot, but there you go. There's the Microsoft stack and why Microsoft.
That's good answer. That's a good answer. Let's go quickly. A lot of people ask questions about licensing within the Microsoft environment. Can you sort of shed a little light on that? Is there a certain a key package group or components that need to be in order to meet CMMC?
Yeah. So, well, obviously, most of us are all familiar with the commercial world of Microsoft licensing. When you create a tenant, it's based on the country your business is in. So North America, for most of all of us, is where it's going to be. So you're going to have your data sovereignty components there. But support becomes an issue of who's actually can get access to that tenant. And that you run into that with CMMC is like who can see that data, and if you have to call support, what do they have access to, especially if they're an offshore support individual, a non-U.S. citizen. But that's where GCC comes in, and that's the next level up, and that's the G series licensing. You get U.S. based support, and technically you get CMMC L2, L3 at that level, but you don't get ITAR. So you have to go up to the next level, which is GCC high. And you're restricted to 3 data centers within the United States, but you also get the cord cut, as it were, from communicating, collaborating seamlessly with people in the commercial world. So Microsoft has a deal. There's ways around that. Microsoft has built some bridges that you can do with individual businesses, but that's one thing you just need to be aware of. And also your pricing goes up about 30%. And there's one other level above that's called the X series licensing, but we normally don't talk about that. The license type that we recommend, or the license SKU that we recommend for anyone in that CMMC world, is the Microsoft 365 G5 license. G5. You get all these components that I just talked about: Intune, Defender for Endpoint, automated identity protection, all the higher level protection, all this stuff you need to protect your perimeter is included in that license. And it's a lot better than kind of nickel and diming things and bringing all these solutions together. Microsoft just gives it to you in a package, essentially. But the other thing you've got to consider is your frontline workers, because sometimes you have people that are just opening documents and just need to see files, but they really don't need desktop apps. They lightly use email, maybe. And that's where the F series license comes in, or the frontline worker license. So we recommend the M365 G3 or G5 for the back office user, and then for the frontline workers, F3 plus F5 security and compliance. It's about 35-40% of the cost of the G5. But it gives all the tenant-wide activations. You're properly licensed from a tenant-wide activation. I can go into that some other time, what that means. But you're properly licensed from an alignment perspective as it goes. So don't nickel and dime when it comes to CMMC. Just G5, and then if you got frontline workers, F3 plus F5 security and compliance.
Great, great, great. Okay, then the third question, and this could take us deep and take us for hours.
I will try not to.
Yeah, we're cutting close on time.
Yeah, no
I
problem.
want you to talk about hardening of the stack. What does hardening mean, and sort of how do we approach it?
Yes. So hardening of a stack, that means configurations, right? In the NIST 171 world, you have all these requirements to protect information, with authorized access and protecting data and USB drives and all those different things. So now you take all these things that I talked about, all these different products and services, and you start with really identity, and you protect identity, users, you put your wrappers around that, all the configuration items around that to secure those user accounts the best you can, because that's one of the prime modes of attack, right? And then the device, and then the email, and then you're going to use these tools like Intune and Defender for Endpoint and Defender for Cloud Apps and all these other pieces to protect that data from getting out, right? Or from people to get to it. And so that is really, hardening is really the configuration of your environment to put all the controls in place that you need to protect that environment in a compliant way. Also, there's the side piece of that is operational, just general operational management. Microsoft, they give you an environment, they give you a tenant, right? But it's really not configured. They may turn on security defaults, if you're familiar with that, which turns on MFA for everyone out of the gate with a new tenant, but historically they haven't done that. And so really, in this shared responsibility model, Microsoft does their thing. They check all the boxes. They go through all the certification process for all the data center side and who has access to those data centers and those environments. So they do all their piece, but then you have your part.
Right.
And every business is a little bit different. Even though you're under the same compliance frameworks, you may configure things one way and another business configure things another way, but they're both, certifiable, compliant.
Sure.
But, so every business is a little bit different. We have our own processes that we've developed. We call it our Fortify process. I've sure heard that term a lot. We came out with it about almost 3 years ago now. And it covers over 600 aspects of, it feels like 1600 sometimes.
I was going to say, whoa.
It does sometimes. Let me tell you, our guys, every time I update the list, they're like, oh my goodness, Mike, but we have over 600, they're just focused on 365 alone, right? When you come to CMMC, you've got firewalls and switches and event logging and SIMs and all these other pieces that you've got to have in your environment for CMMC compliance. But our Fortify focuses on 365, but then we got all the other stuff, right, that we've got to work with.
Right.
So.
Wow, that's a brainful. Well, looks like we're out of time. We could talk, like we said, for hours, but I appreciate the quick. We'll probably do some subsequent sessions together and talk about some of this stuff. Again, Mike is the technical yin to my compliance yang. Together, we make a team, a cybersecurity team. It's been great talking with you, Mike. And I just wanted to introduce you to the people that watch me from time to time, and I appreciate your time.
Yeah, our pleasure.
Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching. Again, another adventure for the compliance guy. Hope you enjoyed it. Talk to you next time.